Hi, I'm Phil J from Complete FS down in sunny Southampton. Today I'm speaking to Marylen Edwards, my old friend, who I've known for how long?
About
15 years, something like that, yeah. So we go back a bit, so we try not to talk too much about the past, but I'm sure it will come out. So you've just come into the buy-to-let world for how long now?
6 months now.
6 months,
with
okay.
MT Finance.
So obviously we've had a bit of an interesting 6 months, but for brokers that have never used you before, what would you say your USPs are as a lender in the specialist world?
In the specialist world, we want to be different.
Right.
We know we're never going to be the cheapest lender on rate, but we're trying to mirror the bridging DNA into the buy-to-let. So the SLAs, service, being able to look at ways to do the deal rather than just working off a sheet that says, sorry, can't do. We've also got a few niche USPs within the industry that set us aside. Prime example is the 125 across the board on our 5-year.
Very good at the moment.
Which hopefully is helping people with the stress and the ICR issues at the moment. But definitely service and being able to take a view.
I would echo what you said. I would say being only 6 months in the world of buy-to-let, your ethos is maybe quite a lot different to other lenders. And I think that's come from your bridging background with MT, that you want to do the deal. You don't just necessarily look at criteria and computer says no, sort of thing, which is really, really good in this market as well, because doing buy-to-let is not necessarily that easy, and packagers or brokers need lenders like yourself to look outside the box, really. So yeah, well done you guys.
So you yourself, how has, you mentioned how the market's changed and how it's good that someone can actually take a view. How has your model changed then since what's happened over the last couple of years?
Well, yeah, so we celebrate 30 years this year, which obviously makes me look really old. I appreciate that. And we started off, I guess, when the world began to have centralised lenders and specialist lenders back in 1993, which was a totally different environment than it is really now. And our model hasn't really massively changed that much. I think we've made some tweaks along the way. We started off by doing, dare I say, residential and second charge residential. When buy-to-lets came out, which was really the late 80s, early 90s, we started doing buy-to-let, which is a big part of what we do now. And that's continued. 10, 15 years ago, we started doing bridging and commercial. And then of late, the last couple of years, because we're on a panel with a lot of the networks, we've started doing referrals from them, because the networks don't particularly like their advisors doing some of the really specialist stuff and the niche stuff like secured loans and bridging and commercial. So they refer to Complete, and we take on the advice, talk to the client. But in this market, it's important that brokers don't lose the opportunity to lose business by referring on to Complete.
So you said you've done all these lots of different aspects of the industry. Is that the secret to your longevity and your success, or what would you say was what's driven you for 30 years?
I think the main thing with Complete is maybe the management and the way we are and the way we look after people. The most important part of our business are the people that work for Complete. We've hopefully got a good reputation. We look after the customer. Our fee structure is probably one of the lowest in the industry. We typically charge like a £99 fee to process a case, which is probably not a lot these days. And the other thing is we look after lenders. We've probably got about 50 lenders on our panel, but we try and understand what the lender wants. And bear in mind, myself and the other director, Damien, we've both worked for lenders back in the day. it's important to understand that criteria and that ethos about, we're not just a broker, we are on the side of the lender and the broker as well. So that's probably the big difference.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier about, obviously it's 6 months, rates increasing, affordability being an issue with ICR and things like that. Are you doing anything different at the moment to try and get brokers on board with that?
Obviously, where we can, we've got lower products, slightly higher fees, but the fees align, so cost of the client's the same on a fee perspective, on a payment perspective, except the ICR allows them a greater equity up front. So there's that. However, we are investigating other products with our funders. A lot of the restriction comes down to the ICR, which, as we've discussed in the past, it's FCA and the regulator driven. And there are lots and lots of clients coming off remortgages of really cheap rates this year, early part of next, that are going to be unable to get 50%, let alone 75% if the stress is still high. I think it's conversations that lenders and the regulator need to have, because it is restricting the way business models can move forward for a lot of people. Watch this space, I think.
Are you seeing more HMOs and MUFBs? And
we've seen a lot more HMOs come in, a lot more permitted development, turning a house into 2 flats or 3 flats, because people are utilising space to gain equity and capital off the back of it, because then ICRs become easier, or stress rates become easier, loans become easier.
You also do semi-commercial.
We do.
That's amazing. Not many do, you see.
No,
so
but
how's that going?
We've had 1 or 2. It's a bit unusual because we don't do the whole semi-commercial premises. So we will look at the regulated or the residential uppers, and we stress on the income for that. And whilst that doesn't work on your typical shop with flat above, there's a lot of old buildings, old Victorian buildings that are a small shop with 3-4 stories that will have HMOs above. There'll be 3 or 4 flats within the entity above, so we can look at those, and a lot of those will be 80% of the income driven from the residential part, so it can make the deal work.
What I really like about that is it starts with a 5.
It does.
And not a 6, so that's really good. So well done.
It does, thank you.
Don't change those.
So you mentioned obviously the issues and asked me, how have you been affected by the changes that have happened since last September?
We've seen a number of changes. I think from what we've seen, certainly the first 2 months of the year, probably a reduction of about 30% of our buy-to-let business that we would have done ordinarily, say, last year. So it is down. I think that's more about maybe landlords are waiting until rates do come down a little bit, so I think we'll get it back later on in the year. But we're seeing some odd things come along, like consumer buy-to-let, where a client who lives in the property can't afford it because of the cost of gas, electricity, etc., and are moving back in with mum and dad, and now want to switch it over to consumer buy-to-let. So that's something that we didn't expect to come out of this year. But certainly larger deals we're getting a lot more of, and definitely HMOs and MUFBs and things like that. So bear in mind the market, we don't typically get the normal buy-to-let anyway. So a bit more bridging as well, which is again where people aren't necessarily convinced that rates have peaked yet. So they're putting themselves into a bridge for 12 months and then reviewing the situation.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I mean, it is, different people have different opinions, but from your perspective, do you think the market will continue to grow this year?
I don't think the buy-to-let market will be as good as last year. It was a really good year, I think, for buy-to-let. I think it will reduce, but I think when it comes 2024, I think it will start to pick up again. But I think we're looking at more of a market for the proper portfolio landlord as opposed to the one that's got one or two.
Yeah.
I think that will grow, and we've already got significant business where people are buying a terraced house in London, turning it into an HMO, getting a bridge on it, and then obviously remortgaging it into a term loan on an HMO. So that business, I think, will continue because these people know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and they can make money doing it.
Definitely.
Are there things that you're looking at to speed up the process, like AVMs at all?
AVMs are on our radar.
Okay.
They are being looked at. Not sure if it will happen this year or whether it will be early part of next. We have to have a proven track record, obviously, with our funders to get them the flexibility for AVMs, and the sort of slowness of business between October and December last year means we're a little bit behind where we wanted to be.
Okay.
But AVMs is definitely on our radar, and it's definitely something we would want to look at going forward.
Okay.
So from your perspective, obviously dealing with 50 odd lenders, what do you like about our proposition? Where do you think we can look at doing more?
Yeah, as I said, we love MT because I think you've always had the philosophy in bridging to want to do a deal. The business that we get from our brokers is about the weird and wonderful, and we've already spoken to you and got some cases over the line where, dare I say, a high street lender or some of these specialist lenders just would struggle, and I think that's where you tick the boxes for companies like us, is that we can have a grown-up conversation about decent portfolio landlords with questions, or certainly high net worth clients who want to buy property. So you are streets ahead of a lot of the competition there. And there's quirky things like your 125% on high net worth clients is very, very good. Semi-commercial, which is good, but yeah, just keep going really. So
thank you for that. Just keep giving us business. I think it's all about working together, isn't it? It's a lot of where the market works, especially in times of crisis or in times of strain, is relationships.
Yeah. Talking of a strain, the last 6 months has been a strain for brokers and packagers, and obviously lenders as well. How many offers did you pull during your bad times? Any?
None.
Okay.
We were very privileged. We didn't have a legacy back book because we were new into the market and we were still in our soft launch stage. So we were able to manage and work through all of our deals. We naturally lost some, but we completed on probably 80+% of our pipeline.
That's brilliant.
Nothing was pulled. It was just your natural stages, valuation, legals, deal falls out of bed. But no, we were really lucky in that respect.
I think to reiterate that, we had good communication from your team about if there were deadlines, and we hit every one for you, which is really, really good. So going forward, that's certainly a tick in the box for us. And if you look at consumer duty, which is coming around the corner, it's important that clients and brokers have the confidence in a lender. Whilst it's only buy to let, I appreciate, but it's so important to make sure that a lender doesn't let a client down. So
yeah, no, totally
well done.
agree.
Yeah.
No, thank you very
Okay.
much.